Good evening, everyone. We're gonna begin.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wareham Zoning Board of Appeals for tonight meeting, Wednesday, February 13, 2019. It is 6:30 p.m. and we're at the Multi-Service Center. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Oh, good, she's coming. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Okay, I'll make a roll call. My far left, Jake Morrison, Attorney Jen Kendrick, our town planner, Ken Buckland, myself, the chair, Nazi El-Khalasi, our clerk, Jim Akabachi. We have another member coming, Veronica Debonese, and town consultant, professional engineer, Charles Rowley. We have some quick business to do with the minutes.
I've done a quick review right here while you were talking, and the minutes look to be in order. I therefore move to accept as presented.
Do I have a second on the minutes? Second by Jen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain. So it's 4-0-0. All right, we're just gonna, just one minute. We're just gonna take a couple of things off order. Is Nassif here? Mrs. What's her name?
Jessica Nassif,
Jessica Nassif?
34 Hammond Street.
Is she here? All right, let's table it to the end. And 3418, and continue public hearing. Steve and Cheryl Urasha,
Yes,
what's your wishes?
I only see three members of the board.
There's a fourth member coming.
Okay.
There's 4 members here.
Yeah, but I can't sit on it.
Oh, okay.
You wanna go ahead with 4?
No, I prefer to have a five-person board.
All right, what's the deadline for your case?
March 16th.
March 16. Because we have a new member, it's gonna be, I'm hoping Tuesday. They're gonna appoint him because the paperwork's complete. He said March what?
So you're looking to continue?
Why? Yeah, okay, so we'll do this 27th. Very well. Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second to continue 34-18.
Second.
For 9 Jordan Road, just second by Jake. All in favor, say aye.
All right, where do we continue into what date?
27th, February 27th.
27.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. Thank you very much,
I
Council.
think we
Thank you,
might need you
Steve.
to sign something here.
The extension. Hey, Rich, come over here. Twenty-seven,
There's new business.
I don't know exactly what it is, I was just looking at it.
Where is that?
Right.
Why does he need an extension?
Across from Wareham Crossing, industrial park.
People on the board.
Industrial park.
I know, but he's off.
Across, go down Kendrick Road, used tire warehouse.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay,
continuous to a date certain.
Okay.
all right, very good, thank you.
I'm not sure, I have to read more.
All right, now we go back to the new public hearing, 4-19 LDE Holdings, 6 Thatcher? Is it Thatcher Lane? Bill, Thatcher? Thatcher Lane. Now come forward, please.
I think we would also like to wait for a fifth, a five-panel.
Okay,
five-member
just
panel.
a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Is Mrs. Nassif back in here? No, okay.
6 Thatcher Lane, what's this one?
Mr. Chairman, we did not receive the site plan for Jessica Nassif as requested.
Ah, that's why. So that's why all right, let's continue her.
So she's not gonna be here?
I guess she didn't have enough time to get the site plan.
Let's see, so going back to 1-19,
Yeah.
5 on the agenda, item 5B, make a motion to continue until February 27th.
Do I have a second on that?
Second that?
Second by Jake. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain. So that would carry to the February 27th. Very well.
So while we're waiting for,
We're good. She's
oh,
here.
she's here.
Just let the record show that Mrs. Devenese came in, and it's 6:40 PM. Thank you. All right. Cable, you come forward. 4-19 LDE Holdings, 6 Thatcher Lane.
You gotta read it.
Okay, so I'm,
1 minute, we gotta read
You gotta
it.
read it into the record.
It's a minute, we'll let you know when to go.
The zoning board of appeals will hold a public hearing on February 13th, 2019, at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition number 4-19 for a special permit / site plan review from the requirements of Article 3, Article 390 of the Wareham zoning bylaws to LDE Holdings, LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, seeking to operate an adult-use marijuana establishment located at 6 Thatcher Lane, Wareham, Mass. That's on Assessors Map 108, Lot 1006, Q1, in the Industrial Zoning District.
Very well. You get the hosting agreement with Selectmen?
yes.
All right, very well. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jesse Pitts. I am the CEO and founder of LDE Holdings, and we are here to request a special permit and have the site plan review. I'm here to answer any questions anybody might have, and Bill Madden, my engineer, has joined me to do the same.
All right.
Okay,
Just your name, Bill. for
I'm
the-
Bill Madden from GAF Engineering, here on behalf of LDE Holdings.
Go ahead.
Okay, basically, what we're here for is a special permit for a recreational marijuana facility at 6 Thatcher Lane over in the industrial park. 6 Thatcher Lane once was the site of the Navionics company that used to occupy the building. Navionics was a company that made navigational charts and things of that nature. They were here for a number of years. Now, LDE Holdings and Trade Routes has the opportunity to purchase that building for use in the industrial zone as a recreational marijuana facility.
Excuse me, Bill, I hate to interrupt you, but I was multitasking. Is it the old Navionics building?
Yes.
Okay, then I heard.
Yeah.
I did good with 1 ear. Thank
Yeah,
you.
You did good. So anyway, the plan here in front of you, I'll just stand up and show you essentially where we're located. The locus map doesn't show, the area map anyway is the USGA locus map. You can see we have Route 195 and Route 28.
Excuse me, Bill, could you pull that easel closer to the microphone and try to use the microphone? Thank you.
There you go.
Now if I can keep it all in one piece. How's
Thank
that
you.
better?
You
That good?
okay back there, Bob, on his audio? Thank you.
Okay. This Mass GIS ortho photo indicates where the industrial park is, and you can see Route 28, Wareham Crossing to the west, Route 28 east of the entrance to Wareham Crossing, and then the entrance into the industrial park, Kendrick Lane. And then there's Thatcher Lane, that's a spur off of Kendrick Lane. The Navionics building is located essentially at the end of the cul-de-sac of Thatcher Lane. I mean, you might recall there was a building that was proposed by the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Department of the United States, Department of Agriculture. There was an office building that they built just below that Navionics site. It was built on a parcel that was once owned by Navionics. But our proposal is consisting of renovation of that existing 17,000 square feet of building space to house a grow facility, processing, and some retail sales space. There's also proposed to be as part of the site, as a future build-out, is a 8,400 square foot building that would function predominantly as the grow facility. That addition would be added to the rear of the existing Navionics building. You can see this is Thatcher Lane, the 17,000 square foot Navionics building, the proposed 8,400 square foot addition, and that's what will happen on the site. In addition, we're going to be creating a small parking lot for the employees.
Really quick, you doing the addition now with that or proposal in the future?
That would be phase 2, so that would probably be year 2.
All right, you seeking approval for it now?
Yes.
All right.
We felt that it was wise just to bring everything together as one application.
And then one of the main reasons for that is because of the parking. So we wanted to show, once that building's in, what we would actually have for parking.
Okay.
As you can see, the driveway into the Navionics building is right at the end of the cul-de-sac. That's the existing driveway that's been in existence since the building was originally constructed. An extension of Thatcher Way heads basically in a southwesterly direction. That serves as the access and the frontage for the building that USDA is now occupying, that I previously spoke about. So essentially what we've done is just come in off of this driveway in developing the rear of the site and the site along the south side of the building. This plan right here is effectively the existing conditions plan that does show the building. Shows our demolition where we're going to remove a few landscape islands and some curbing and things to accommodate the new construction.
Bill, before you flip that, I see a slashed line coming real close to the proposed building. The dotted line, like it's a setback.
This
That
right
that
here?
one there, what's that?
That's the 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetlands.
so that's the
That's
100.
out here. So as far as the site goes, there is a small bordering vegetated wetland to the east. Separates the cranberry bog acreage that 80 Makepeace owns over here. And there's a small band of wetlands. And they have the access road that goes up to the dam and what have you from Makepeace. But anyway, that's the 100-foot buffer zone, and then there's a 50-foot zone as well. So that's what those two lines represent. Coming into the site, what we did is based upon what we have observed from the VeriLife facility. We know that the parking has been basically dedicated to an off-site location, and they shuttle people into the site. We're not certain if that same scheme will hold true for this, but anticipating that it may be required, we showed a small drop-off area in the front of the building, and that would be in the event the van was needed to drop off customers. You know, we did show about 17 parking spaces for customers on the south side of the building. We think that there's a parking table in the front. The amount of square footage inside the building is less than 1,000 square feet for the retail customers. So I think the parking requirement is 1 per 250. So we weren't really required to have large number of parking spaces for customers, but we were able to derive 17 rather from that space, and then create 17 additional spaces for the use by the employees of the facility. So what we show is a driveway that comes in. It's a two-way driveway, 24 feet wide. Parking spaces are 10 by 20 off of it. There's a gate that would separate the area that would be used by the customers from the parking area that would be used by the employees of the facility. So they would have to pass through this gate to park into this area. The entire site is, not the entire site, but the entire building proper itself is enclosed with a fence, with the exception of the front portion of the site. The fence will basically wrap around the building and tie back into the front corner. So there is no fence across Thatcher Lane, but there is on the other three sides. And that's for some security purposes.
So the front of the building becomes the front fence, the fence returns to the building, and
The fence will return to the building on the
Yeah,
corner
okay.
over here.
In the back corner on the left side.
Yep. Okay.
This sheet indicates essentially what we're doing for the, for grading and drainage. We're trying to slope most of the site back to a small drainage basin. That drainage basin is located within the 50-foot no-activity zone through conservation, and that's an element that we need to discuss with Concom at the upcoming meeting. You know, we'll be advocating for use of that space in large part because we're going to remove a small portion of a parking lot over there that currently exists, and we're also proposing to enhance that 50-foot no-activity zone with additional plantings that normally we would just propose a loam and seed type of thing, but for some mitigation to work in that 50-foot no-activity zone, we thought it would be wise to at least offer something up such as that. That 50-foot no-activity zone for a commercial building, there's 6 or so exceptions that the Conservation Commission can allow activities to occur within that zone. So we'll be presenting the project to Conservation and requesting that we're able to occupy a small portion of that space. So that'll, I think we'll have to come back to you on that after we have the meeting with Conservation. So that's essentially what's happening with the drainage on the parking lot. We're shedding it all to this small bio-retention or rain garden area. The roof runoff from the proposed addition would all be infiltrated into the ground. We have an infiltration bed that's located on the north or more north side of the building that would accommodate the roof runoff from that building. I know that one of the comments was that the separation from the water table was not 2 feet as required by stormwater management, but our position would be that since it's clean water runoff coming from the building, that we'd be seeking some relief from that requirement. I don't know who would be seeking the relief from. I think that it would probably, I don't know, who would be asking for that anyway? Just, I think this board.
It's a requirement of the stormwater regulations of the state.
Yeah. So we may have to look at a little bit.
Stormwater, is that DEQE?
No more DEQE, it's DEP.
Yeah, okay.
They have stormwater regulations, which the town has adopted as a part of the procedure for site plan review.
So in some instance, we'll offer additional mitigation to compensate for any changes to the site, like I was talking about the buffer zone and how we want to plant that. So we'll have to see how that works out. The site is fully utility. It has town water. It has town sewer. We will be sprinkling the new addition. The existing building currently does have fire protection in the existing building. I think there was a comment from the fire department that they'd like to have the fire department connection. That's the connection to which the fire department pumper truck hooks up to. They were considering, well, they've asked us, I think, to move it from the side of the building to someplace on the front that would better facilitate them. So we're in the process of looking at that as well. So we have town water, we have town sewer, underground electric is in the building. There will be proposing to add some additional ventilation and some air handling equipment, as well as some condensing units that would be placed on the ground. The place on the ground was going to be on this north side of the building. And at the meeting that we had with the planning board, it was suggested that we come up with a little bit more screening for that area. So now I think we've shown a small fenced-in area around those condensing units. I don't think it needs to necessarily extend as far as the security fencing, but we would be providing a small concrete pad with screening to shield that from the neighboring property. So that's really pretty much it on the civil side of things. I think, Jesse, if you had any questions on operational criteria or what's going to go on inside the building, he'd be the person to ask about that. Wasn't also a discussion on the construction of the existing building, or the proposed building. We were proposing a metal-type building similar to what is in the industrial park now. We recognize that there are some requirements for architectural standards in the industrial district, but, you know, I think that we try to be in keeping with more or less what's there. You know, most of the buildings are metal. This is shielded from the site, from the street by the existing building, although the second story is viewable from the street line. It's a pretty significant landscaping plan as well that we've proposed. So we have a series of trees that would be shielding the parking lot from the use on the, I guess that'd be the east side. And we've placed some additional shade trees across the frontage, a couple of plantings in the islands, and the rain garden itself is fairly well planted. These trees, although you might not represent it that clearly in this plan, but those trees are spaced to be around the driveway so that we'd actually be driving in between the trees. I think the canopy that's shown on the graphic kind of shields us from understanding what's going on with the parking, with that drop off, but we laid it out so that it would fit between the trees. And that's pretty much it on the site. We don't think it's going to add any real demand to services to the town. It's already watched by fire and police departments over here. We're not going to be generating any school-age children. I think it should be a good business in town. It is one of the 3 areas in which the retail marijuana can be sold, and I think it's a pretty good location for the intended use. With that,
Before we continue, do you have possession of that property?
We have a purchase and sale agreement for that property, yes.
Where is it?
Where is it? Oh, I don't have it with me right here.
Yeah, you have to get one in the office right away.
Okay.
We shouldn't be hearing it without possession of that property. Some kind of like BNS, the deed,
We're closing on the 20th
20th of this month?
of this month.
All right, just drop it off if you can tomorrow.
So there's no
Definitely will.
contingency, it's not subject to permits, it's not.
What is not subject?
On the 20th, if we extend to the 27th, you're still gonna close?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right, very well. Too much information to comprehend pretty quick. I did look at the comments of the planning board, the fire department, and Charlie's comments. The most important thing in Charlie's comment that attracts me, drainage. Where are you going with all that drainage when you put the addition? Did you do perk tests on stuff?
we've augured some holes. We've augured a few holes on the site. We did all the buildings to the south. We have a pretty detailed log of test pits in there. We think we have a pretty good idea as to where it is. It's relatively high in the area, and it does create some design challenges.
Right, and, okay, I'll let Charlie comment on this. I'm gonna start with the board questions, then go to Charlie. We start with Veronica. Nothing?
Not at this time.
Jimmy?
I'm fine.
Jake?
Nothing at this time.
Jen?
So what percentage of your business is gonna be you're growing, right?
So we have a Tier 2 license for cultivation. The state has set it up in tiers, and those tiers depict your canopy space. So we're between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet of flower space, and we're really right around 5,000. So we're relatively small on the scale of the industry.
Are you gonna be, is there any other aspect other than growing and retail, or you?
Yes, so there will be an extraction lab there. So we'll have a manufacturing license to be able to process and extract the cannabis oils.
Will you be preparing any edibles, or only?
We do not do edibles. We would be sourcing that out, so we make the oil, and then we would give the oil to the edible chefs, whoever we contract to do that, and then they would do that. We did think about it, but really the space wasn't there for a commercial kitchen, and it's quite expensive to build one out, so.
Jen?
Oh.
Ken, you wanna comment on something?
At this time.
All right, do you have wastewater management, I mean stormwater management?
Yes.
You guys did it?
We did,
Did you give it to Charlie?
yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna jump to the public, then we go to Charlie quick. All right, anyone in the audience wanna speak in favor? I see none. Against? Any comment? Okay, Charlie. I did read your letter, there's a lot of valid comments. Most of them are valid, and they're good comments for me. So I just wanted to see a couple of important things. The variance of the, you talked about a variance?
Yeah, the cover letter for the application suggests that they're requesting a variance from the planting island requirements for the parking spaces. Mr. Madden suggested that you're well above the minimum according to the table of uses. If it's based on retail space of 1,500 square feet and 250 square feet per space, you only need 6 spaces. They've got in abundance of 17. So I guess the question is, why do you need a variance for the island, landscaping island? It can be fit in there and still meet the minimum. So that would be one question that I think if it's not a variance, if they're going to withdraw that, that's fine. But if they want to have the variance, then it seems to me they need to provide information with respect to Chapter 40A as to why it should be allowed. The criteria don't seem to have been reflected in the information that we have here. Since it has been mentioned about the drainage, 2 test pits were done on the property. Both indicate that the groundwater elevation that they observed back in August was within 0.2 of a foot. That's a little over 2 inches variance between the 2 holes. At elevation 32, the bottom of the stone drainage area that is a trench within the surface stormwater section of it is within 6 inches of that water table. Stormwater management requirements are for it to be a 2-foot separation. When you dig a test hole like that and you look at groundwater which is sitting there in the hole, if you were to grab a sample of soil that's above that, you will see that there's a certain amount of capillary action that goes up above that water level, and it saturates that soil. And that's one reason why you'd have that separation, because you need the pore space within the soils in order for that water to dissipate when it goes down into that soil from the surface. So I don't believe that this particular design is compliant with that. They may have to look at alternatives. It may be that total runoff is such that you can do some other sort of infiltration or some sort of other mechanism for disbursement of stormwater. But clearly the stormwater regulations say that whenever you do infiltration projects, which is what this is, you need that 2-foot separation. It also occurs with the roof runoff. Now, whether it's clean or whether it's considered dirty, meaning it's got sediment in it, I believe is irrelevant. It says in the stormwater regs that roof runoff is considered clean water, so you don't have to do any pre-treatment. But it does not give any leeway to the 2-foot separation. So again, I think there needs to be something looked at in terms of what you do with that.
Can I interrupt you quick?
Sure.
Where does all the water go now?
It runs off the surface. There is virtually no stormwater management system on that site. It was developed prior to the adoption of any of the regulations that you look at today.
Okay, well, let's say if they don't disturb the parking spaces or the area, can we enforce them to do?
Well, they are disturbing the parking spaces. They're taking up a portion of it with a new building addition, and
If
they're
do, that's
modifying
what
it
I
too.
mean, yeah.
Right,
But right now, that building addition, it's 5,400 square feet of pavement.
right,
But they propose on 8,400.
right. So there's a difference of roughly
Right.
3,000 square feet. The
I
calc-
do agree if you go above
The
this.
calculations may bear out that you only have to account for the difference between what leaves the site today and what new runoff that may occur. In that being the case, it might be that some other sort of a stormwater management system could possibly work. I haven't looked at it. I'm bringing it up because I don't believe it's compliant with the stormwater regulations. With respect to some of the other things, I had put in my letter, if
I
it
know you
turns,
talked about parking.
I did.
additional parking.
if it turns out that the only parking spaces that are needed on the site are what's shown on the site and is compliant with the retail use, that's fine. If it turns out that because of the type of a use that it is, and if current conditions and other sites bear a similar situation, you're going to have off-site parking somewhere. And
Well, if you don't mind.
yeah,
I think they talking when they open, just what happened on Main Street, they have an off-site parking. In the next 6 months, there are gonna be like 30 dispensaries opening in the state, so it'll be a lot less
Well,
impact than all these
that
dispensaries.
may be the case. I would only recommend then that based on the experience that we have, we don't have any experience other than that,
Right.
knowing that these facilities are brand new. My suggestion would be that in the conditions of any special permit that you may grant, that you make it a condition that parking shall be contained within the site, and that if off-street parking becomes a requirement, that they have to show that they've obtained it somewhere,
Okay.
to be in compliance with the rules and regulations of the bylaw.
I guess we could do this to a certain time, only certain period, like 2 months or so. We cannot,
Well-
we can't impose more parking if the bylaw says parking every 250 square feet. We can't make them have 10 parking.
But it also says that you're not supposed to park in the public way. So if they end up parking in Thatcher Lane because there's not enough parking spaces on the site, that's in violation of the bylaw.
That's true, but at the same time, I know what you're saying, what happened on Main Street, but.
I hear your position about you don't know what's going to happen in the
Right.
future. All I'm suggesting is that you make it a condition for maybe a year's review or 6 months' review or something to find out exactly what the conditions will be once this gets under operation.
Okay, we did 1 year review.
So the
Same
other,
like we did on Main Street, we did 1 year review.
I don't remember that. I wasn't a part of that one. There's, with respect to the parking, on the plan, it says that there's an overhead door that's to be relocated.
Yeah.
Apparently, along the back of the existing building, there's an overhead door. The architectural plan does show an overhead door, and when you plot it out with respect to the parking that they're proposing, that overhead door is in the same spot as the parking spaces. When you go to the zoning bylaw and it talks about parking requirements, loading and off-street, or loading docks and so forth, it's a requirement that you show that on the plan. And it also says that it cannot be restricting the parking spaces that have been dedicated for other use. In other words, you can't unload the truck over parking spaces that is used for either employees or for customers. So I think that needs to be addressed. With respect to the building design, in the industrial zone, it says that there are 4 types of exterior materials that are allowed. Masonry units, stone or wood on the facades. So it would seem to me that if the petitioner is suggesting that because many other buildings in the industrial zone are based on metal fabrication, that they would need to request a variance on the materials that are used for the construction of that building. The lighting also, it has suggested in the narrative that it's the goal of the lighting not to have an impact on adjacent properties. But no evidence has been presented that there won't be some spillover. Typically, you would see a plan that shows the illumination across the parking area, and the fact that by the time you get to the lot boundary, that illumination has been dissipated to zero. So I'm suggesting that Section 1243 and the subsequent sections of the zoning bylaw be looked at that. In looking at Section 935 CMR 500, which is the state statute under which this type of a facility can be approved, it says several things that may be pertinent to this board's determination. One is that they are required to show that they will have power so that they can be operational during a powder outage. So I'm not looking to see, I'm looking on the plan and not seeing any generator or anything like that that might provide the power. It does say that perimeter security fencing is designed to prevent entry into the cultivation area, but there are no details on the plan that show how that fencing is to be constructed, how high it is, what materials it is, and so forth. Section 500.17 of the 935 CMR also says that it requires all establishments and the establishment agents to be in compliance with all local regulations, ordinances, and bylaws. So I just bring that up for your consideration.
Okay. I guess everything is feasible and solvable except the drainage.
Well, if I could just add a little comment on the drainage, I think that really, as it relates to stormwater management, we have two elements here. We have a portion of the site is considered redevelopment, so we're required to meet stormwater management to the most practical degree possible. So I think that we have an element of redevelopment, and then we also have an element of new construction being the building. And I think that the drainage that's associated with the building is something that we're just gonna have to look a little more closely at. And, you know, I think that we're just trying to stay away from anything spilling on the ground and try to keep it a little bit below grade. So now if we have to repipe some roof drain conductors, keep those above ground, put things at grade at the side of the building, and maybe things have to be bermed up, and perhaps in that manner we can achieve that 2-foot separation. I think the separation with the rain garden, that might be one area that would be considered redevelopment in my mind. So if we meet the standards to the degree practicable, then I think that, you know, we're gonna be able to have some leeway on that separation from water table.
All right, so you think you could satisfy the stormwater management guidelines?
Yeah, I think it needs to be broken up a little more clearly, and we need to provide Charlie with a better explanation.
What are
than
you
what we
gonna
did.
do with the facade? You wanna go for a variance, or are you gonna do what's required by the bylaw? Stone, wood, masonry, or?
So with the facade, really, I wanted to kind of paint a picture for you guys what we envision this looking like. You know, this is gonna be a high-end boutique Cape feel building. We're gonna redo the entire front of the facade of the existing building, and then the gable end that's gonna be exposed of the metal building is going to be decorated to look like a Cape house. So we really want this thing to look good. I mean, that's part of our brand and part of our image, is making sure that that experience, you know, is that. We don't want it, you know, I understand the concerns of a metal building, and that's not our intent, to have this big metal building that just stands out. I feel like it's gonna blend in well, especially from the front view of the building with that gable end.
I do understand, and it probably does, but you have to meet the statute of section 10 of the chapter 48, I believe, the section 10 is the variance.
That's for variance?
So you have to come with the argument that show the hardship. I think in the parking lot, you do have a hardship due to the shape of the lot and the location of the building. You might be able to prove a hardship with that. The angle of the grass, being the location of the building, the existing, probably is a hardship. But you have to argue the case, and the same with the facade. So, I don't know if you're ready to argue it now, if you have a case, you know, but, we could just pull a vote on just that and continue. So we could tell, the board could determine if a variance is granted or not, so you could, do you understand?
Yeah, I think I'll wait to argue that.
Okay, probably next time you prepare for.
Okay.
So, we'll push until next time, the argument about the facade and the parking, at the island of the grass, okay? Regarding the stormwater management, I guess, Bill, you're gonna satisfy Charlie's conditions or comments? We work it out with him until next
Yes,
time?
but can I ask just one question
Yeah.
on the architecture? I mean, the existing building doesn't meet that standard, so,
Changing the use, though.
pardon me?
You're changing the use. You're changing the use and putting an addition, so we can request what we want.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just saying that, you know, the architectural feature of the exterior of that existing building is far from metal, but it doesn't meet the four standards. I mean, I'm thinking that would we be considering using the four standards on the addition
No.
portion or the whole building?
I don't see it this way. I recommend next time you come with some color prints too, so we can see it better.
Okay.
But because you're changing the use, putting addition, and you're changing the whole thing, so I think you have to comply. Go ahead.
In accordance with the regulations, I think you should also identify what is available to be viewed from the public way,
Okay.
because that is the standard. It's what's viewed from a public perspective.
So that might be a little better for you, because you do the one that facing the road versus the side.
Right.
So that addition may not comply. You understand? Because the addition's in the back, so you may not have to do it.
Right. So, but like that gable is exposed, so we'll have to see exactly what that looks like.
Color plans would help a lot, but you should come with color plans with a strong argument on the variance,
Okay.
okay? On the lighting, we should have a lighting plan. I don't see a lighting plan like Charlie suggested. You should have a lighting plan.
The photometrics plan, we did just receive one today that we can elaborate on a little more.
Okay.
We did not propose any lighting in the parking lot per se. All of our lighting was shown on the side of the building. And, you know,
We
I
should
think
have the luminance of
the photometrics of how that light will
So we
illuminate
should
the
have
area.
lighting plans.
Yep, we will be able to provide that for the next time.
The fire department had a comment. Did you read the fire department comment?
I did not.
Come on, you could have this. Come on, look at it.
Probably in the application, I was gonna ask.
All right.
What do you plan hours of operation
Hours of operation,
for the proposed?
for the retail or for the actual back of the house? Well, the back of the house really, it'll probably be typical shifts, probably 2 shifts in the back. I don't see anybody there past 8 o'clock working in the back rooms. And we're probably gonna close, I was thinking 8 to 10 on the retail, but it'll probably be 8 to 8.
So, retail, just like going to Wareham Crossing or the shop, the grocery store, or
Right.
anything else, kind of same kind of hours.
Exactly,
Retail section.
yes.
On the back of the house, not so much.
Not so much, I mean, but you're talking maybe 6 employees. If anybody's there late, it'd be 1 or 2.
Okay. I have a question, I don't know who it goes to, but,
I'll get further from the mic for you, Bob.
I went to 390 of the bylaws. I've been reading it while everybody's been talking here. What zone is the industrial park? Isn't the industrial park in an industrial zone?
Correct.
And I'm reading this, maybe I'm missing something here, but 391.4 says specifically that the use, blah, 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 use in the industrial district. And then it goes, I'm just paraphrasing, then the final sentence says, use variances shall be strictly prohibited. So if I'm reading this right, our bylaw says you can't do it there.
But the
Am I reading this
selectmen
wrong?
It was zoned there.
Pardon me?
You are reading it wrong.
Am I reading it wrong? Okay, so clarify for me, because
There's a special article, I think, it passed by town meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
what it
What
says is that there are certain districts that it is allowed in.
correct.
And the use variance that's available in the regulation that would allow you to put it somewhere else is not available specifically to marijuana facilities. So it can only be put in the districts that are identified.
And where are they identified? Are they identified in 390 or elsewhere?
In the use table.
Okay, okay.
What version do you have of that, Jim?
I've got the 2018 revised February.
You know,
Okay, because my 391 is the marijuana facilities section.
Pardon me?
My 390 is a marijuana section.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reading.
Well, I'm saying 391,
390, and then you go down 3 paragraphs, and
what page is the use?
well, I just lost my copy of the book, so you guys can look it up yourself.
it says use variances are not allowed,
I'm just,
but they're not asking for a use variance. They're asking for the allowed use.
Yeah,
that-
it's an allowed use.
okay. Well, it was a question of the board, because like I said, I was trying to read and
Let's
listen.
see it somewhere. Okay. And the garage door, the overhead door, Charlie talking about, I don't see it in the plan. Where is it proposed?
It is being relocated, and it will be in the middle of where those parking spaces
Yeah,
are.
if you look at the architectural,
It's gonna line up with the drive.
if you look at the architectural plan, it shows in a line on the back view of the building, but when you plot that out on the site plan, it comes right over the top of the parking spaces that are next to the addition.
Okay.
The idea is to have it in between those parking spaces. So I'll make
If you
sure that,
unload- How the cars get out if you're unloading, unloading?
how
Say
the cars get
You have
out,
a tractor trailer.
we're not gonna be pulling tractor trailers in there. Really, that door is an overhead door to bring like a dolly in of a pallet of soil or something. But there'll be no large tractor trailers or anything coming back in there.
And one of the things that we were looking at with that is whether 2 double doors really fills the bill as opposed to a roll-up type of door.
The roll-up is what exists, so that we were thinking just move that over, but whatever, you know,
Because if you put a big door, I'm assuming trucks gonna be parked there and how people gonna pull out? Although if you dedicate them for employees, it's different. If you dedicate these parking.
all the back is dedicated to employees.
All right, I would say double door would be better
Okay.
idea. Okay, and let's show the parking dedicated for employees, dedicate the parking for next time. So did you read the fire department notes? So if you could incorporate that, the notes in your plan, Bill?
Okay.
So I'm still confused on my prior question. Yes. So
It's all
says
reasonable.
medical marijuana
It's all reasonable.
as I
Yeah,
found
there's a couple of things though that
And-
start to get into
and-
town.
That's
Redeveloped area, you know.
Yeah, but that's treatment, not recreation.
Right.
So show me where that is.
Where's the recreational?
But what if it was for emergency use backup only?
The one on,
It might, maybe.
institutional, that's the one on Main Street?
Things that it needs to be when you get
Businesses are allowed.
Because I mean, in Middleborough, we talked about deliveries and what's going on. Potential vehicles are gonna be there and it really can't have an effect. Nothing bigger than a bread truck.
I think it's section 392, Jim?
Biggest thing is.
Under marijuana establishments, which is under medical marijuana treatment center, and on page 11,
Page 11.
you see medical marijuana treatment center.
Yeah.
Page
Look
11.
underneath it, and you'll see marijuana establishments, which is the term used.
Under commercial uses?
Yes. And under educational and institutional uses.
Under where?
Educational and institutional uses.
Yeah, I see that. I see
What is it?
medical marijuana.
You don't have it.
There's a new version since this. What's the date on
You
that
don't
one?
have it.
September 2018.
Let me just show him, please, if you don't mind. Yeah, you don't have it.
Okay, this is September. I got the February. Okay.
Look
That's
at it,
probably my confusion.
right there.
The town meeting that passed the bylaw was in March.
Did we get a new copy? Yeah, I got it now.
I'll make sure
That's
that
the,
everybody gets a new
special
copy.
permit.
Special permit, special permit. That's what I wanted. And then it's
Institutional,
over here. Commercial strip.
subcommercial. Very well. problem solved. Okay, so, I gotta go back to Charlie's comments.
How much time do we want?
All right,
Do you think it'll take us to get this ready?
Charlie, anything within,
2 weeks.
regarding the generator and stuff, are you guys gonna have a generator? I'm assuming.
Yes,
and
we are.
fencing and all that.
Yes,
I assume these are state requirements, aren't they?
yes,
So I guess the state gotta inspect you anyway. And make
yes.
sure. So we're not gonna have to worry about this.
Except for the location.
Yeah, you gotta
We'll
show
put it
us
on the plan.
a pad for a
Yes,
generator.
yep.
You know, as I read the state regulation, the applicant has to provide a lot of documentation to show what they're going to do, and some sort of supplemental power is required.
Okay,
So I would think that if it is required there, that you'd want to be able to see where it's going to go on the site.
right, so might as well do it because you're gonna do it regardless, right? So bring everything you can, plans for the fence and all that.
Okay.
And we talked about the variance, how you're gonna approach it next time, lighting on the plans. The stormwater you're gonna work on.
Yeah, one or two just additional things on the stormwater too, if I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
sure.
The drainage area that is for the parking area is within 80 feet or so of the cranberry bog. We know that during harvesting operation and winter flood, they put water in that bog. The soils are reasonable. They're a very sandy soil, which means you're going to get the transmission of water laterally quite easily through that soil. So I've asked that they provide the elevation of what might be the high water mark for the bog, to see whether or not it's higher or lower than the elevation of the water that they found on the site. Because that might impact the bottom elevation of where they're putting the system if that water should happen to be higher. So I'm asking them just to evaluate the whole stormwater thing from that point of view, that the stormwater regulations say there needs to be a 2-foot separation. I recognize that it is partially a remediation project, but it's also an addition. If you were simply remediating the property and not increasing the usage, I would be more inclined to say, well, maybe because then you don't have to do the retention area. But you're adding 8,800 square feet of new building, revising the
Basically
parking area.
adding 35 because.
35 different, if that's the way it works out. But I would like to really make sure that there isn't some other way so that we can maintain that 2-foot separation. The other part of it is that infiltration facilities require a pretreatment. What is shown on the plan is a very shallow, I'll call it a catch basin, but it's only about a foot deep in terms of the sediment trap, and then the water spills over like a little check dam and then goes in. That's a shallow area to take advantage of all of that, and it's all done because you're so close to the water table. So one of the other questions I wanted was if that particular type of pretreatment thing is a proprietary pretreatment, I'm happy with it. But I didn't see anything on the plans that says that it should be. Stormwater regulations call for it to be a proprietary treatment for a structural type of facility, such as what they've shown. So there are some details that I'll work out with Bill, but I just don't want to let the stormwater go by without really taking a look at the whole thing.
I understand, but when they flood these bogs, you know that water table is gonna go up.
Well, if it does, then they're going to be in trouble because they're working toward infiltration of the water through that basin, assuming that it's going to go down and filter out. If the groundwater is higher to the point where it can't go out, it's like putting a plug in the bathtub. And it's a very shallow system to start with. So I just want to be sure that we've got that potential infiltration capacity.
I don't know what the rules are, but why would they be responsible if the bog people flood the bogs? If that's not the water table mark, that's a man-made water elevation.
But if it has an impact on the groundwater, then it needs to be taken into consideration. You just don't ignore it and assume that everything's okay.
If they do a perk test, they should put the rust line, right?
They've done test holes. There are 2 test holes shown on the plan, and they're showing what the soil materials are. They showed that they found groundwater 4 feet below the existing surface. And they put the bottom of the infiltration area within 6 inches of that groundwater table.
I know
It's too
2 feet,
close.
so you can't beat the 2 feet, you're gonna have to, I guess.
Well, we
take
have,
a
we
look
have
at
to
it.
look at it. I mean, we know that that high water mark is gonna basically be about a foot lower than the dike road going around that bog. I mean, they put those things under and they run that water right up to within a foot of the top of the bog. So, I mean, we know what that elevation, I think, is gonna be. I mean, I think what it's boiling down to is, I know what Charlie's saying, but, how many instances are gonna be coincident with a rainfall event in that high water? I mean, it is something that needs to be considered. We'll figure out one way or another how to deal with it.
I'm sure there's a rule about it. We can't overrule the rule about stormwater. So if the stormwater management says Charlie Steer is right, we can't overrule it because we feel like it. You understand?
No, I mean,
Numbers don't lie. It is what it is with numbers.
No,
right?
There-
Right? We both agree.
There are other things on the site too. There's a portion of the property which has been defined by a wetlands buffer. By looking at the site as a whole, it may be that runoff can go into that wetlands buffer to some degree. Wetlands have the capacity to infiltrate impurities and take out some of the things you don't want to go into the groundwater. So there's perhaps other things that can be looked at. So I'm willing to work with Bill and see if we can come up with something, but I don't want to suggest that we're going to keep that system so low. All you have to do is look at the storm we had yesterday. I was talking to a gentleman over at the property at 1618 Toby Road today, where they want to get a permit or an occupancy permit for the new Liquors and More. And he said they had to cut through 24 inches of frost to do some work. If that drainage area were wet and then you had rainfall like we've had, and you've got frozen conditions, that water isn't going to go anywhere, and it's got limited capacity for storage. So these are the things that you all have to take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely with that frost. So anyway, most of us here don't understand drainage much. That's you and Charlie, but the numbers are the numbers. So I'm sure you have to work it out and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that there's probably gonna be a couple of creative things to deal with that infiltration on the,
Check that buffer, that wetland buffer zone. That might work for you. I think that's your best bet, what he's saying.
well, I would tend to agree with you, but I gotta go meet with the other board next Wednesday to find out how good that bet is gonna work out.
And you've got to get the waiver on that 50-foot separation too. That may not be easy, but we'll see.
Put it this way, the building is there regardless. So you can, the building is there and there's a paved area, 5,400 square feet.
Oh, I know,
there.
yeah, it's,
So the conservation gonna have to work with you somehow.
I think that there's an opportunity to get it done one
I'm
way or
sure they
another.
understand.
We can do that.
Just for the record, so everybody's aware, David Pichette did ask me if I would forward a copy of the comments that I've given to you to him,
Okay.
knowing that it's going to come before his board, so he has it.
So, and again, this isn't a challenge question, this is a curiosity question. Is this discussion, we're zoning, is this discussion more appropriate with conservation, or?
No,
It's with us.
no, because your own zoning bylaw says you need to conform with it.
It's with us.
Okay, that's,
It's a separate, you're
I just didn't,
acting under two separate statutory requirements. One is the Wetlands Act, which is what David will deal with,
Mhm.
and the other one is Chapter 40A in your own zoning bylaw that says you have to conform to stormwater management.
and conservation doesn't delve into that?
So they will. That's why he asked me for a copy of the report.
I just didn't know if it was just a duplication or so there's some overlap, but they depend on this board to make a decision based on your arguments, and
They will,
that board makes decisions based on.
no, they will look at the report, and then they will take a look at it from the point of view of the Wetlands Act as well as the Wareham Wetlands bylaw. They will not try to interpret what they're doing based on your zoning bylaw. They will stick to their own regulations. Just the same as it would not be the purview of this board to suggest that you've got to keep the 50-foot separation from wetlands. Same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find, sure there's some overlap, but I was trying to find out which which board is doing which.
Yep. Yep.
Like I said, it wasn't a challenge, it was a curiosity.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bill, where we signage, are you in compliance or you need a variance on a sign or?
We're gonna have a sign that'll be compliant. It's not shown on the plan. We'll have that the next time.
All right, anyone in the audience wanna say anything? None? Board, you guys wanna add something before?
I
Let it
think
go,
we should just continue it.
and we address these issues until next time.
Yeah. We'll come back with a pretty picture of what the place is gonna look like.
Jake, you wanna add something? Dan, Ken?
I do, yeah, actually. I do like, I was actually thinking personally, I think a place like this would be better in the commercial zone where they're gonna be putting it, because I really do not like the one in the center of Wareham at all. We see a lot of traffic, and then we went to go to the park the other day with my nieces and nephews, and they're not supposed to be using that stuff there, but they were, with my nieces and nephews there, so I do like it being out of sight, out of mind a little bit more than the center of town.
I guess your comment is that you like this site better
In
than.
the industrial.
I do like it better.
Absolutely. It's way
I
better
think,
than Main Street.
I echo that sentiment.
It does make more sense. What's done is done.
So do you want a motion to continue?
Let's ask, like, Veronica, you wanna add anything?
No, not right now.
You can.
Just to point out that the state law said that an existing medical marijuana facility could convert to recreational.
And that's what
adult use.
happened on Main Street.
And that's what happened on Main Street.
Unfortunately, it's not in our control. We didn't want it to happen
No,
this
no,
way, but,
I know, just, that's good to have it on the record to understand how things come about.
however, we do have 1 year review on that, if you recall.
That's right.
We did put one, I specifically put personally 1 year review on it for
Yep.
traffic, so we will revisit Main Street in a year period, and if the traffic continues like this, we have the right to.
And it's not only the
cease
traffic,
and desist
it's a
that
lot
permit.
of things, I think.
Yeah,
So
there
we'll
there
see what
are,
happens. But as I understand, I've been talking to people with the business, like with the regulators and people like do the regulation. Like I said, within 6 months, there are gonna be 30 dispensaries opening, so it will take a lot of impacts from all these places.
that may be, but in the meantime, that's yet to be known. So all I'm suggesting is the board,
The first day they opened, they ran out. Seriously, the whole country ran out.
Whole country.
So, but that's good for him, he's gonna make good money, so make the building look pretty if you're gonna make that money. All right, let's make this, all right, what are we doing?
I make a motion to continue until the 27th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jake to continue, what's the?
What's the
hearing?
name of
Just the-
the applicant?
What's my agenda?
It's,
It's 4-19, LDE Holdings, to continue, motion to continue by Jim till February 27th. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Jake, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye, oppose, abstains. So it's 4-0-0. So we'll see you gentlemen then, and good luck.
Thank you.
Can I have you sign the extension?
Yes.
Is Jessica Nassif back in? I guess she's not. Did we make a motion to continue? Let's make a motion to continue for this.
Yeah,
I think we did.
We did.
I think
Oh, we did,
I think
okay.
we voted on
Yeah.
it, too.
Well, very well. Anything?
Yes, there's another item that I'd like to bring up,
Okay.
and I just wanted to get a read from the board.
You wanna wait for Jan?
Yeah, probably wait for Jan.
Do we have anything left from Thatcher Lane that I can put with the file while we're doing
Right here.
Yeah,
A little bit of housekeeping here. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Charlie, thank you.
which one of you is Henry? You're Henry.
I am.
Yeah, I'd like to take these home.
Very interesting.
This goes with, you can take this one though, because I have one here. I think that goes with, yeah, with that set. And then, this
All right.
here was also, this was part of.
You guys wanna pay attention for
Was on
Ken
that?
quick?
Yes.
This is all
4-19, that's all. No, yes, I believe that is, yep.
All right, Jim, go ahead, Ken.
All right, the Board of Selectmen have an application before them for an expansion of display of cars from 9 to 30 cars. And this was under a special permit. This is located at the corner of Main and Cranberry Highway, Main Street,
Main Ave?
Main Ave.
Yeah, it's 3067 Cranberry Highway, right across from...
Oh, the pro team, the pro team. The,
It used to be, yes, sir.
yeah, okay.
And the request is going to come to the board as to whether or not this is a major or a minor modification of the special permit. Special permit was issued in 1997. It specifically said the display of 9 cars was allowed.
Right. You have more than 9 cars?
Currently, no.
You want to come up to the microphone?
Yeah, why
Commissioner?
don't you come forward? Just your name for the record.
Henry D. Jesus.
All right, all right. So, and that's the Buzzards
Buzzards Way Garage, yes.
Way garage. You get nice cars there, by the way.
Thank you.
So you have more, do you display at once more than 9 cars?
We got over a little bit in the beginning, and then we're down to what we should have, which is, quite honestly, a little bit sparse. I think the original applicant, it was like a sideline for him, and in our case, it isn't. We're a full-service dealership. We service what we sell and everything there.
Are you looking to display more cars?
Yes, sir.
So you're gonna have to come for a special permit?
I believe,
Let me say this. Do you know when the highway gonna start construction?
Supposedly this fall,
This fall?
yes.
Because it's taking a big chunk out of that land.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's mostly where I had
Yeah.
planted a lot of shrubbery, and we don't park any cars there.
I know, but it's taken like 6,000 feet of that lot, and
Yeah.
that lot, I guess it's 20,000, so it's taking a
It's
quarter of it.
half an acre, yeah.
I don't know if we make this gentleman come for a permit. Well, in the fall, it's gonna be taken down. All the site plan he's gonna do is gonna go to waste. It's gonna be redesigned. Or we could just wait. If you could keep it as close as you can to 9 cars. I don't know.
So he has a request in for the Board of Selectmen for expanding to 30.
30 cars?
Yes, there's plenty of room for it. And what the state is going to take won't affect it at all. None of the cars would be parked on any of the land being taken.
Let me just ask Charlie a question. That property it's paved, all of it paved. There's virtually no green except that front. So if he comes in for a special permit, and he could show he could park 30 cars and the customers and all that, which I doubt, but let's say he can. Let's say he can demonstrate that.
I think you gotta go back to the special permit that was issued and see what the allowances were in that special permit. So you mentioned that you service the vehicles now. Does the special permit allow you to service them that you currently have?
That, the place has a repair license, I know for a fact.
But he's got a special permit for the sale of 9 cars.
Right.
For display.
Does the special permit allow him to do servicing within the terms of the special permit, is what I'm saying?
Right, the place has a permit to repair cars, and there is a special permit to sell cars.
So the special permit has nothing to do with the site itself, just the number of cars?
Yes. It was issued long time ago.
What do you mean in terms of the site itself? Because the special permit runs with the land,
That's
not the
correct.
use.
Right.
That's correct. I don't know, I'd have to take a look at the bylaw to see if an expansion of the existing use requires you to full compliance or not. I don't know.
Well, he
I'd
has
have
to
to look at
comply
it.
with the present zoning bylaw.
I would say, first of all, that I'd want to read the special permit myself so that I knew what that was saying you could do. And then see what the bylaw says with respect to the expansion of existing uses. the use is for the sale of cars amongst other things. If
I
you-
want to point out that the special permit that I read from 1997 specifically says that there are 9 cars that are allowed for display only.
Correct.
And he wants to do 30. And that's the change that he's proposing in this application. And the question is.
It seems to be a major modification.
Exactly. Is it a minor or a
Absolutely,
major
yes.
modification?
Yeah. it's a
The
major
question is, can you obtain a copy of the state plans and you design your parking lot according to the state plans, so when the state come and take that piece, will not disturb what we have you do. So we might have to tell you put a granite curb, concrete curb, grass island, so we don't want to do this, then the state comes in and takes it out.
The current site has quite a large area of gravel that is not paved. And what the state, I've got it, I didn't realize I had to come before.
Yeah, that's
you
fine,
ju-
we're just talking, no big
But
deal.
I had it drawn out, and I had it all signed off and everything. I can certainly bring you a copy of that, and also a copy of what the state is proposing.
Well, you're gonna have to see a professional engineer to draft all this stuff and to go by, you need to hire somebody to do this.
But I think the question in front of us this evening, through the town planner,
Is it a major?
do we consider it major or minor?
It's absolutely major.
modification.
It is major modification, so you gotta go seek some advice from an attorney or an engineer. I don't think you need an attorney, just a professional engineer, and come argue your case.
Okay.
And just, there's a standards, there's a sheet. If you hire a local engineer, they know what to do. There's a standard that they have to follow, and they'll come see us, but it's definitely major modification.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask him just one question?
Yeah.
Mr. DeJesus, has the state actually made the taking of the property?
No,
They have not made it yet?
They did. They paid.
no, they did not pay me a cent.
You bought the property?
I own that property.
You bought it from Peter?
God,
God.
yeah.
But they haven't made an actual taking of the expansion of the construction project yet?
No,
No, they did. He must gotten the money. There's no way.
I haven't gotten, believe me, I haven't gotten any money.
Let me tell you something. I own the property after you and before you, and both of them, they gave me money.
Yeah,
The question I asked for is for this purpose, that I don't believe that if a taking has not been made, that you can force that applicant to design
You're
according to
absolutely
something
right.
that hasn't been approved.
That's something you have to check,
So,
because, like I said, I'm past you and before you, and I got money and no sign, so.
and they haven't given me a cent.
So let me ask, how long
Well,
have
at
you been?
this juncture, I don't know, we were kind of talking about things that are,
Really?
pertinent or before us at 8. I would just, I would just suggest maybe we say this is a major modification, talk about it.
Shoot it back to the selectmen, and then it may never come to us.
Right.
We may be over answering the question.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the
Yeah,
taking.
no, I got it.
They paid already, so. Anyway, okay, so it's major modification.
Okay.
We all agree it's major modification?
We do.
Very well, thank you. Check on that taken. All right, anything else somebody wanna add?
Make a motion, we all get double our salary for being on the board.
Okay, good luck. I want quadruple.
Quadruple, okay,
All right, let's make a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Do I have a second? Second by Jake. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say aye to adjourn. Aye.
Wait a minute, we got somebody waving his hand at us.
Ah,
Yeah, I was on the agenda for tonight.
What's your name?
Smith, 83 Pinehurst.
No.
Jasmine said that I was on the agenda for tonight.
Maybe there was an error, so, I don't think we have a file on you.
you're not even next week.
Okay, I have an email from her. It said I was on the agenda for tonight.
Just hold on one sec.
Which application was this?
It's a minor modification and a possible 6-month extension. 83 Pinehurst Drive.
Oh, she must have put him in preliminary business. All right,
No, there's no folder in there for that one.
all right, let's make a motion.
No,
All right,
that's across the street.
okay.
That's the Smith across the street. Yeah. It's for a,
So have we closed officially?
Now, hold on one second, let's make a motion to reopen.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
thank you, I appreciate that. Want me to come
All
up?
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain. Wanna come forward? So where's that it's, your name first, for the record, please.
Sure. Tim Smith, 83 Pinehurst Drive.
Okay,
And we presented an addition renovation to our home last year to you, which was approved. We've now scaled that project back.
you making it smaller?
That's correct.
Was that a variance or special permit?
I believe it was a special permit because we were then going to be within the 20 feet setback of the road. And now we're only going to move part of the house forward 2 feet. There was going to be an 8-foot extension and then a 10-foot extension.
Can
To
we
make-
look at the plan quick?
No,
Jen, so you are gonna be within the 20 feet of the setback?
we'll still be beyond 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before you were within the 20 feet?
If we were going to move forward with the
Old
ones
one.
that was already approved by the zoning board.
So that
Yes.
was a variance. Okay, let's look at it quick.
Is this the one that had the generator and all that? No.
Okay, yeah.
Where's the
That's our neighbors across.
You missed my question.
Like downtown, where's the site?
The site plan is downstairs with permitting.
That's not gonna help us.
I have the original site plan.
Yeah, yeah, email it.
So,
I availed
are
it.
you waterfront or across the street?
We're across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, we're more than 150 feet away.
I'm just trying to get you in my brain, I think I know where you are, but. This is what was approved?
This was approved.
Okay, so you had a variance, that's why you're here, you're less than a year. You don't wanna pass a year. So now what are you doing with this?
What we want to do is just come out the 2 feet here and have a flat facade here and not do this 8-foot and then 10-foot.
So you wanna erase that farmer's porch? Is that what's that?
No, it's not a full addition.
Oh, okay, so you just wanna get rid of the 8-foot addition?
Yes.
And just continue that 2 feet here?
Correct.
All right, you don't recall what was the case number?
No.
All right, I'll tell you what, we promise you that the 27 will hear it. It is a minor modification.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
They're making it.
Don't you love technology?
Yeah, that's not.
Don't you love technology? Gets out his phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here, I got it.
That's true, Jim, so it is a variance. That is, it's special permit. Oh, you know what? It's a non-conforming lot.
Pre-existing non.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's why it was special permit. So
Right.
you get 2 years.
We're non-conforming here, and then we would be non-conforming in the front.
So, you have 2 years,
Mhm.
because it's a special permit.
Yeah.
And you don't need us to make it smaller.
You don't need-
Okay,
So
so I can,
just go build it
Under,
smaller.
under the existing approval, he can pull a permit and show a smaller footprint?
Yeah,
but,
right, Charlie?
I'm assuming, I think that's a call for David.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
David, building
Requena.
commissioner.
yeah.
Yeah, but he's
No,
saying,
Dave, Requena, building.
Okay, because I spoke with conservation, because we have conservation as well, and they.
he might call a modification for a
Conservation
special
said we
permit.
don't need, so,
My,
Because you're doing away with this 8, but
Yes.
then you're going out 2 more feet here.
John,
just to make this right here.
Oh, okay, it's gonna be
Just this.
flush.
Correct. Yeah,
Oh,
we
I
want-
see.
We want a flat front, yes,
Yeah, I wouldn't,
just so that it looks better.
just
there's
see
no-
Mr. Requena,
Okay,
the commissioner, and just tell him the special permit calls for that, and you just don't wanna do it.
okay.
do you need a modification or not? If he says yes, just let Jasmine know, we promise we're here at next week.
Or 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I mean, 2 weeks,
2
yeah.
weeks, yeah.
Well, you wanna start right away?
Well, as soon as possible, yes.
Did you start with Jessica, or did you go to the building already? Did you go to the inspectional department?
Yes.
And they said,
Inspection has all of this as well as the site plan.
did they send you up to?
Yes.
So,
They sent us up here, and I spoke with Jasmine, and then I sent Jasmine an email, and she said, I have the email that says that I'm on tonight's.
so it sounds to me like Requena
Already made that
has
determination.
already decided to kick them to us.
Yeah.
If we could,
Modify the permit.
yeah, if we could.
You live in town? Yep. Why don't you go see David tomorrow at 9? I have an appointment, so I'll squeeze you with my appointment, and this way, I'll ask him, I'll ask him and I call you, I'll let you know. What's your number?
508.
Yeah.
254.
Mm-hmm.
70. 40.
What's your name? Smith?
Smith.
Timmy.
Do we need to, on the record, make any kind of a,
Well, let's see what David
official
said.
position of the board, so that if,
Well, we need it on the agenda.
okay.
All right, so
I just
I'll
don't-
call you tomorrow, let you know if he says you need to come back here, you come back on the 27th, no big deal. You can start on the 28th, so, construction. All right, let's make a motion to adjourn now.
You shouldn't have to be here at all.
I don't think you should, but,
Yeah, I don't either.
let's make a motion to adjourn.
Just to see if there was a minor modification.
Move to
But all you're
adjourn.
doing is something less, you're not even adding
All right.
anything.
If it was bigger, it'd be something different, smaller.
Yeah.
I'll let you know
Enjoy your
tomorrow, 9:30, Tim. I call you tomorrow, 9:30, let you know.
You follow me around, is that what it is?
All right, a motion to adjourn, please.
I gave a motion to, motion, there we go.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstains, close, thanks. Thanks, Bob.